kindergarten, I didn't really like the girls. I always thought that the only thing they cared about was being a princess. For years, I had this little voice inside my head telling me that if I want to be the strong one, the one that saves lives, the one that goes on adventures, I should be a boy. More than 11 years later, I can't believe how wrong I was for thinking that something as insignificant as gender was the thing to define me, my abilities, and my future. Today, I'm going to talk about something that influences our identities. Something that's been going around for centuries, but has always been viewed as a minor problem. It has become such a big part of our everyday life that it is considered normal and can even be invisible at times. Gender stereotyping. As some of you may know, gender stereotypes are simplistic generalizations about the roles that people play in society based on their gender. I can give you an example from first-hand experience. After cutting my hair short, the amount of times I've been asked whether this was my way of coming out is ridiculously high. Hearing comments about my sexuality, which were pretty much based on my appearance, wasn't nice, and it never will be. Unfortunately, not everyone realizes how big the consequences of something as simple as a sentence can be. Especially for younger kids who are still trying to figure themselves out. Rather than the stereotype, this acts as a social norm which they believe is right to stick to as they grow up. Yet, did you know that some of the most famous gender stereotypes which have been affecting our behavior used to be the exact opposite back in the days? For example, as you all know, pink is for girls and blue is for boys, and may the odds be ever in your favor if you prefer the other color. Or maybe not. According to an article written by Jar Hodge, a 1918 editorial stated that pink was more decided and stronger color, which made it more suitable for the boys, while blue, which is more delicate and dainty, is prettier for the girls. Stereotype. And this proves how ridiculous it is to associate a color to someone's gender because, who knows, in a couple years it may change again. Or what's worse, as a society, we may decide to add even more colors into this stereotype and make our own lives even more complicated. Because why not? And just to give you more examples of how drastic changes some stereotypes have gone through, did you know that cheerleading started out as an all-male sport? Or that high heels were originally designed for men? Crying was considered manly for ages. It was seen as a sign of strength and honesty, and historical evidence suggests that not only did men cry in public, but it was also never considered shameful. Or as society puts it now, feminine. Personally, I've never understood why men had to be the strong ones and what that had to do with them not expressing their emotions. Being able to do so is what distinguishes life from death. The fact that so many different stereotypes have changed completely throughout the years supports my idea that they're absolutely meaningless and that they never really mattered in the first place. There's nothing wrong with a man expressing his emotions or being a masculine woman. Emma Watson perfectly explained what I'm trying to say right now. Both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. It is time that we all perceive gender on the spectrum not as two opposing sets of ideals. When it comes to gender stereotypes, people always seem to focus mainly on the women's side. Almost all of the ad campaigns that were created to shatter gender stereotypes don't even mention men. They make it look as if it's a one-sided problem, when in reality, men face just as much gender stereotypes as women do. And the impact isn't any different. Those who are unable to fit into the standard for being a man, or in other words, are aren't tall enough or masculine enough usually encounter a lot of bullying throughout their life, which inevitably affects their self-esteem. As for those who somewhat manage to be a real man, most of the time they're putting on a show for the rest of society, hiding who they truly are behind this gigantic wall made out of stereotypes. Have you ever asked yourself what a world without gender stereotypes would look like? Because I ask myself this question every day. And though there is no correct answer, I believe that if we had the freedom to explore the countless possibilities that lie beyond the stereotypes forced upon us, having the chance to do whatever we want without being considered abnormal, we could be living in a much more technologically advanced world. If we hadn't spent so many years restraining both men and women from developing their knowledge in certain areas, in which they may be good at, just because it doesn't suit their gender. Right now, every little thing surrounding us could have been different. I want everyone to be able to fit into whatever suits them best as the individual they are, without asking themselves, is it right? But how do we make this possible? I've said this before. I believe that the environment we grow up in is what makes us who we are. The mentality of a kid is not the same as the mentality of an adult, and most of the time, simple sentences may act upon our own insecurities later in life. That is why the most important change must come from within our surroundings, and most importantly, our families. Allow your kids to play freely, even if their toys are from the wrong aisle. Or what may be even better, stop labeling items. Clothes do not have a gender, neither do toys. Avoid telling kids what boys or girls are allowed to do, because it will only make it harder to fight against this problem. Start talking with kids about stereotypes, and make sure they understand that it is not necessary to act a specific way, just because society tells them it is right to do so. I'm not in kindergarten anymore, and I no longer look down on girls. Back then, I wanted to save lives. And while writing this speech, I came to realize that I already did. I saved myself from the delusion that I can be who I want to be. The truth is, I can't help but agree with what Forrest Whitaker once said. At the end of the day, stereotypes will still exist. We just have to find a way to walk through them.